They came from all over New England to compete for one goal, one hope. Almost 300 men and women chasing a dream, a trip to Las Vegas, and a chance to play against the world's best poker players on the game's biggest stage. Now, only 4 remain, with the skill, patience, and luck to make it to the televised final table. Only one player will win the opportunity of a lifetime to represent Eastern Poker Tour in the World Series of Poker's main event.
Welcome back to the Eastern Poker Tour's second season of their Tournament of Champions. I'm your host, Bernard Lee, alongside poker veteran Spiro Mitrakostas, and we are back here at the final table. We are down to the final 4 players here at the Eastern Poker Tour's Tournament of Champions. One of these players will win the ultimate prize, a seat into the World Series of Poker's main event. We have 2 huge chip leaders right now with Dan and Andre, and we have 2 other players who are just fighting to stay alive. You've got Paul and Ron trying to hold on to try to win that seat into the World Series. Let's see the chip counts before we get down to the action. Well, I think the players are ready to get going. Let's get down to the action. The blinds are 30,000 and 60,000. These 4 gentlemen must be tired. It has been a long night. Ron here, first to act, has pushed all in for 370,000. Ironically, the hand that's in the middling hand when your head's up, Queen 7.
How much we got there?
I don't mind this play. Now the question is, what will Dan do here? It's going to cost him $280,000 to call with King 10 of Hearts, which is not a bad hand. He's getting 1.5 to 1 on his money.
280.
He does have 1.7 million chips.
Right.
I expect Dan to call here.
He knows that Ron could be pushing with any hand here because the blinds are about to come and hit him. Well, he makes the call.
Ron didn't like it. You could see it by the reaction in his face. And Dan is a 2 to 1 favorite.
This would really increase Dan's chip lead, put him over 2 million, and really allow him to take control of this final table.
As much as we really mean it.
I mean it. You're a good guy. You're all good guys.
There's no more coming out.
Give me another one. Those are okay too.
Slow flop.
Jack of clubs, 9 of diamonds, 5 of hearts. Really no help at all to Ron.
Well, actually, it hurts him because now his queen makes a straight for Dan.
Oh, give me a flush.
And now Dan has a flush draw too. Ron is in deep danger here. He needs a 7.
And Ron has been eliminated in 4th place. Overall, Ron played very, very well. He played solid poker. Well, now with 3 players remaining, it has definitely been a grind. Over 2 full days of playing, almost 300 players have started this event. And now, in the early hours of the morning, these 3 players are still left fighting it out for the seat into the World Series main event. Let's listen to what the motivation of these players are.
If I was to win a seat at the World Series main event, it would mean 20,000 chips in front of me, 2,500 people in that room. We're all starting out the same.
I'll be pretty excited, but for the most part, I'll just be looking forward to playing.
It would mean taking some time off from a brand new job, but my boss is a poker player, so I think it'd work well as long as I took him with me. It'd mean a lot of fun.
The wager at first, I'd be a bit nervous. Hope luck will carry me out and get occasional suck out here and there, because you're going to need one.
With the action down to 3 players, we have increased the blinds to 40,000 and 80,000. Andre folds, and the action's over to the small blind Paul, who is sitting there with 10-5 offsuit.
I'm going to raise 100.
Not a great hand by any stretch.
Paul raises to 100,000.
Well, I think this is a solid play. There's only a heads up right now, and You know, Dan, although being a very, very big chip leader, that's probably his issue. Dan might call here with 9-3, and he does.
A little surprising.
Well, let's go off to the flop. Let's see what happens. Well, that flop missed everyone. Queen 7 deuce.
250.
Well, I think that bet was very, very scary because he basically put in a little bit more than half his stack, telling Dan, I'm coming. No matter what, I'm going to come. So I think Dan knew he didn't catch any part of that flop. It wasn't worth him risking another 400,000 or 500,000 chips into his huge dominating chip stack of 2.1 million. Well, Paul's become very aggressive as of late. Let's see if he keeps up this aggression and is able to continue to build his chip stack and maybe overtake the 2 chip leaders. We are back down to the action. The blinds are 40,000 and 80,000.
So, where are you on that one? Sorry, I was trying to drink.
Andre's raising with king queen in the small blind. A very good hand, short-handed. Not a great hand with a full table, but very good hand short-handed.
I'm going to raise
Oh,
200
and
more.
again, a player wakes up with a pair of aces.
Well, Paul picks up the hand that whether you're short-handed, heads up, full hand, the best hand you could have. American Airlines once again, who's raising it up. And Andre now calls, of course, he does have a very good hand heads up.
He's out of position here, too.
We'll see what happens. Well, Paul has just hit the slot machine hitting top set, and Andre has checked. This is a great time for Paul to slow play it.
I'll go 200 more.
Well, he's betting 200,000. Maybe he's fearing the spades on the board, but
Well, considering he only has 400,000 left, this is a bet that really shows strength, in all honesty. Obviously, Andre's got to know that Paul is not going to fold here. I'm not really sure about this bet. What do you think, Spiro?
now, in retrospect, there's no doubt he should have just checked and hoped that Andre bet and put him all in on the turn.
Absolutely. A king or a queen on the turn, I think he could have gotten a lot more chips. He probably would have at least doubled the remaining 400,000 that he had.
Paul picks up a healthy pot there, and now it's becoming a three-way battle.
Well, with this big hand, Paul now has taken over second chip position with about 1.1 million in chips, and then unfortunately for Andre, he is down to about 600,000 in chips. Dan is still the chip leader, but let's see if Paul can continue his upward trend.
Paul's first act here.
Blinds are 40,000 and 80,000.
Throws away his 8-6 offsuit.
Call.
Well, Dan, with a very, very strong hand of ace-queen, decides just to call. A little surprising.
Well, he's hoping that Andre makes a bluff and he can push them all in, but he didn't, and it looks like it may have cost him a beautiful flop for Andre.
Absolutely. A gut shot straight draw with middle pair.
100. I'm all in.
Dan bets 100,000. Andre quickly pushes all in. Dan has given up the hand. A nice little pot for Andre, picking up 260,000, allowing him to get back a little bit into this match.
Dan losing 180,000 there, and he didn't look too happy about it either.
I'm going to raise 200 on top.
Well, nice ace-10 here for Paul, and he raises to 200,000. And look what Dan woke up with, a pair of jacks.
Well, when it comes back to Paul, it could be a very
Raise.
yeah, he's just raised. It was going to be very curious. Dan has played coyly every once in a while, limping in with aces, so it was going to be curious to see if he was just going to limp in with the
580.
jacks, but instead decides to put a healthy raise with the jacks. Paul's going to have a very difficult decision, really, for his tournament life.
And he folds his ace-10 pretty quickly.
Well, that's surprising. A good fold. Without a question, a very, very good fold.
Well, he must have picked up something there from Dan.
Well, with that pot, Dan Sullivan has increased his chip lead to almost 2.8 million. In fact, Andre and Paul together almost don't have half of his stack. Dan is securely in the chip lead. Let's see if he can finish it off when we come back here on the Eastern Poker Tour's Tournament of Champions.
Visit EasternPokerTour.com to see how you can be at the next final table. Welcome back. to the Eastern Poker Tour Tournament of Champions.
We are down to the final 3 players, but Dan from Cranston, Rhode Island is securely in the chip lead with almost 3 million in chips. But one double up by either player can really change the balance of power at this final table. Let's go down to the action. Well, we are back with blinds 40,000 and 80,000. Paul sitting in the small blind, and the action is to him.
And would you believe it, Bernard? Aces again.
It is absolutely amazing. Paul is getting the cards at the right time. He's been aggressive lately, but he's also getting the cards. He decides just to limp in.
I like that play.
Dan it allows to check his option with 9-7 offsuit.
You first.
The flop is 10-6-6.
200.
Now Paul leads out with the 200 bet, and Dan quickly folds. Once again here, I think it would have been beneficial for Paul to potentially just check and continue the trap. What do you think?
Absolutely, because if Dan had hit a 6, he's going to lose his chips anyway.
Absolutely.
But if Dan hits a 10, he's going to take Dan's chips and double up.
Lines are 40,000 and 80,000.
Paul's first act here.
230,000
Quickly
total.
raises with ace-5 and raises it up 230,000.
200 more.
I like his aggression here.
Absolutely. We talked about it before with ace rag. People have been just limping in. Now with 3 players, you really have to utilize that aggression. Well, Dan's looking down at basically his favorite hand throughout this whole tournament. He's been raising with pocket deuces. He's hit a set or 2 with pocket deuces. I think this is a real dilemma because this is the hand that has really taken him to the chip lead.
I'm going to call. So is how
Well,
much?
he makes the
200
call, and this is a virtual coin flip here. And Andre gets out of the way.
Well, let's see if these pocket deuces will allow him to maintain his chip lead and potentially even eliminate Paul.
You first.
I'm all in.
Well, Paul utilizes his aggression again. 10-7-8 misses everybody.
They failed me for the first time.
Dan once again shows his pocket deuces and saying it's the first time
expecting
it
the
has
trip again,
failed
huh?
him.
One thing that I noticed there, Bernard, was this is the 3rd time that Paul has pushed all in, and every time he was bluffing and he moved all in very quickly. I wonder if the other players will pick up on that.
Absolutely. That's a very, very common tell. When players are bluffing, they will push their chips all in very, very fast. If you noted when he had the aces previously and bet only 200,000 when he hit top set against Andre, he took his time, he looked at his chips, and then bet the 200,000. So all the viewers out there, you might want to look at your own play and make sure that you don't have potentially one of these tells. Let's get back down to the action. We're back down to the action here at blinds 40,000 and 80,000. Andre on the button has looked down at ace-8 suited. Again, a very solid hand. 3-handed. Andre is a short stack at our table right now.
He raises to 250, which basically is an all-in play because he didn't leave himself too many chips behind.
He pretty much has left him, he's put in about 50% of his stack. Paul looks down at ace-10.
I'm all in.
I think he's just pushed all in to isolate just to make sure that Dan will not call and really put Andre's tournament
Want to just count it
on
up
the
after?
line.
Well, Andre calls, and Paul's got the edge here. Ace-10 versus ace-8.
Yeah, well, I don't
Not
have
gonna
good
like
luck in
it.
these things.
He's going to need that
Plus, I
8
never
or
You never
some
play
guy.
that
I
hand.
never play that hand.
Because you don't like it?
I don't like it. I hate it.
Well, Paul says he doesn't
it's a
like the
race.
ace-10, but he's going to love it right now.
He folded it earlier
Yeah,
when Dan
slowly.
re-raised with the jacks.
Absolutely.
comes, I'll be in
Now we
slow
know why.
That doesn't look
Ooh, that don't help.
Well, this is really going to hurt Andre. Andre's really going to need some running cards. It's the only way to survive this tournament.
He's running cards for a straight or 2 8s.
Ooh.
Well,
8, 9, 10, jack.
now it's just opened up. He's got open-ended
that's
straight
it.
draw. He either needs a queen or a 7
a queen.
to survive.
He knows what he needs.
Unfortunately, it doesn't come in.
And Paul has eliminated
Fine with
Andre, and now it's down
Absolute
to a
pleasure.
heads-up battle,
a lot of
Bernard.
fun.
But with the elimination of Andre Pereira from Hopedale, Massachusetts, we are down to the final 2. You know, Andre played a very, very solid match, took control of the final table at the beginning, but unfortunately could not sustain that momentum. So now we're down to heads up between 2 Rhode Islanders. Dan Sullivan from Cranston, Rhode Island, versus Paul Sapinski from Johnston, Rhode Island. These two players will be battling for the ultimate prize, the World Series of Poker main event seat on the Eastern Poker Tour's Tournament of Champions.
Visit EasternPokerTour.com to see how you can be at the next final table. Welcome back to the Eastern Poker Tour Tournament of Champions.
Well, welcome back to the Eastern Poker Tour's Tournament of Champions. We are now at heads-up play between Dan and Paul. They are about even in chips. Dan has a slight chip lead, and really, it's anyone's ball game. The next few hands will be absolutely critical, as the winner will now get a seat into the World Series of Poker's main event. Let's go down to the felt and see who will come out victorious. So we begin heads-up play with blinds 40,000 and 80,000.
I'm going to raise 200,000.
Paul on the button has picked up a nice hand. King, queen again. As we said, short-handed. It's a
Beautiful
very, very
hand.
solid hand.
Beautiful hand.
But amazingly, we are seeing
re-raise.
really, really solid hands together.
200 more.
Call.
Now, Dan has re-raised to 200,000, and Paul almost shoved all in. He said all, stopped, and said call.
Yeah, I don't think you have anything.
Very, very interesting here.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm shocked by that.
Well, with a really, really junky flop,
I'm all in.
Dan decides just to push all in and not give Paul the opportunity to catch anything.
That's a great play by Dan. He has to push all in.
690,000.
690,000.
There's no way that Paul can call here. He is lucky he didn't say the word in.
That's right, because he would pretty much be out of this tournament right now.
He's very lucky he only said the word all.
Absolutely.
Oh, big pickup there by Dan, and now he takes a nice chip lead. He won almost $1 million in that pot.
Well, very, very fortunate for Paul. You know, if you're talking about 9 lives, that's definitely one of them that he survived here.
Cool.
Again, we're picking up solid hands. Dan has picked up queens. Paul has picked up a pocket pair as well of 7s.
Well, Dan smooth called again, as he's done many times with big hands.
I'll raise
And
500,000.
after Paul re-raises,
Make it
Dan
11.
re-raises, and we have an all-in, and here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Queens against 7s.
Oh, I'm dead. Oh, that's right. I still have some left, probably. I guess I stepped into that's the first pocket pair I've had since we've been heads up.
Paul has Dan out-chipped, but just by a little bit.
It's all yours.
Oh, I like
And you
that.
can't have asked for a better flop than that. Paul is really right now down to 1 out, 7 of diamonds, and 7 of diamonds only.
No 7 of diamonds. No 7 of diamonds.
Well, a diamond hits, but it's a 2 of diamonds.
I think I still got more
Dan
than you.
goes
Yeah,
over to
you do.
shake Paul's hand, but Paul quickly says, listen, I've got a few more chips left. He is going to be crippled, though, and really, really on his last leg. Dan has really seized control of this pot. Well, after that hand, Dan took a commanding chip lead, about a 2-to-1 chip lead in heads-up play. However, amazingly, over the next 10 to 12 hands, Paul was very, very aggressive and ended up recapturing the chip lead over Dan. Holding a slight chip lead, we go into the next hand.
The crazy game of no limit hold'em.
Absolutely. Well, Paul has about $1 million in chips.
I'm all in.
Call.
And instantly, again, Paul goes all in, and Dan calls him with a pair of 10s, and this could be the end finally for Paul.
Yeah, this could be it right here. Dan has the chip lead. The pot is about 2.4 million.
I think that Paul's 9
red.
lives have run out.
Keep them black.
Well,
yeah.
it's not over yet.
No, it's not. What a
He's got
flop.
8 outs. Obviously, Dan has the 10 of clubs.
That ain't gonna happen.
Paul seems resigned that it's not going to come.
Oh,
And once again, the river allows the underdog to come back. That is really devastating for Dan. It really, really is. That's unbelievable.
This is beyond comprehension.
That didn't help.
Well, that was a suck out.
Actually, Dan took that pretty well. He was on the verge of victory, and it was
torture.
snatched right out of his mouth.
Oh, I can name one king of club that's not like the Hunter.
I never thought that was going to come.
Well, with that hand, Paul has now taken back the lead. About a 2.4 million to about 2 million chip lead. Absolutely unbelievable.
I don't know if I can take this back and forth, Bernard.
Unbelievable as we go back and forth. Well, let's go into the next hand as we'll see if one person can finish this off.
What a hand. Paul wakes up with another big pair, a pair of jacks.
260 total.
Well, Dan instantly pushes all in with ace-jack suit,
Well,
and
what do you
he
get
is
this time?
not going to
an
be
ace.
happy.
Another one?
If I had one. Oh, son of a bitch.
Well, you might get the ace.
Well, maybe I'll catch a king of spades.
Dude, this ain't going to end. We're going to go again.
Well,
There's your deuce.
Paul has come all the way back and
Runner on
is
a
now
spade,
on the
please.
verge of eliminating
Or
Dan.
an ace.
Unbelievable. A 9-1 underdog at one point, and he potentially can come all the way back.
Please let it be an ace.
If there's any justice, Dan will catch an ace and stay alive. And that's it, Bernard.
Great tournament, my friend.
The comeback is complete. Probably the most dramatic comeback in EPT history. Congratulations to Paul Sapinski.
Battle of the century.
What an amazing finish we just had at our Eastern Poker Tour final table. One of the greatest comebacks I've ever seen. Now let's go down to Bernard as he talks with our champion, Paul Sapinski.
Paul, congratulations on a fantastic battle. You were short stacked coming into the final table, short stacked at a certain point heads up, but you came back to win it. Tell us a little bit about the big hand, pocket tens versus 9-8 of clubs.
Yeah, that was a really big hand. I was debating on whether to go all in with that hand, but since it was 9-8 suited, I figured I'd take a chance and force the action one more time. Unfortunately, I went up against pocket tens.
Oh.
Then I got real lucky against Dan and caught the club flush on the river.
Absolutely.
Oh my
and then
God.
On the end, it was a huge hand. Obviously, had to happen. Ace Jack versus Jacks. What's your thought when you flipped when he flipped over his first ace? Were you a little nervous?
Well, what do you get this time?
There's an ace.
Another one?
If I had.
I almost thought he had the other ace, but then when he kind of hesitated, I knew he did.
Well, tell us a little bit about what your plans are now that you're heading off to the World Series, Las Vegas. You're going to be sitting, hopefully, at the table with a lot of pros, and hopefully you get really deep. What are you thinking right now?
Well, I didn't expect it to make it this far. I didn't expect to win, and I still don't even feel like I won now because of all the luck involved.
Well, congratulations. Paul Sapinski is our winner for the Eastern Poker Tour's second season. Come back next time and see who the third person that the Eastern Poker Tour will send to the World Series main event. I'm Bernard Lee, along with Spiro Mitrakostas, here for the Eastern Poker Tour Tournament of Champions. We'll see you next season.
Don't just watch the final table action. If you think you have what it takes to make it to the next final table at the EPT Tournament of Champions, log on to www.easternpokertour.com to see how Eastern Poker Tour can put you in the spotlight and make your poker dreams a reality.
It's run so professionally, and I tell all my friends I've been bringing people to come in.
They're professional, and it's a great opportunity.
If it weren't for Eastern Poker Tour, I would not be playing poker and wouldn't have this chance of a lifetime.
You know, you can't beat going to a local establishment, paying $10 to have good food and good company and play cards, you know.
Met a lot of nice people, and to give me the opportunity to go to Vegas, something I never would do on my own, is just awesome.
The Eastern Poker Tour has been great. It's an opportunity to play live with other people as opposed to playing online. A lot of different people, a lot of different skill sets playing face to face. So it's a learning experience every night.
I mean, where else can you put 10 bucks down on a table one night, BS your way through 230 other people, and be sitting at a final table with 1 in 8 shot at going to Vegas, I guess. I mean, it can't beat that.
The Eastern Poker Tour is a series of free pub poker tournaments held throughout New England. Just win one free pub tournament and you guarantee yourself a seat at the next televised Tournament of Champions.
I love
For
you,
more
baby!
information and a schedule of local events, log on to easternpokertour.com.